So, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation With. My name is John Lunn, aka Jonnychipz, and in this video series we talk about all things cloud with experts and advocates from right across the industry, covering a wide variety of topics from skills and careers through to technical overviews and soft skills. So whether you are watching this on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter or LinkedIn, thanks so much for tuning in, really is appreciated. Please do take part in the chat below, drop us a comment, like and subscribe is always appreciated. Okay, so my next guest, he is a technology consultant, a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, a certified trainer, an author, public speaker, blogger, and a podcaster. And he's here today to chat around all the awesome advances in data platform and much, much more. So, based out of Wolverhampton in the UK, I'd like to give a warm welcome to my next guest on In Conversation With, Mr. Gethyn Ellis. Hey, Gethin, thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. How are you, mate? Are you well?
I'm very well under the current circumstances. I was just saying, getting back to that face-to-face meetings at the moment, Gethin, I think is starting to factor into my life. How about you? How's it going with you?
It's, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. A lot of my work is still very much remote-based currently. I've had a few sort of on-sites and client meetings on-site, but I'm still very much sat in the shed here working away. So
yeah,
changed for me yet.
No, absolutely. Well, look, huge thanks for coming on and saying hello to me on this episode this week. But I mean, look, before we kick off, we've got some great areas to talk around. I don't know if you want to kind of give yourself a little bit of a more elaborate introduction. Let us know where you are, what you're doing in your career at the moment. That would be cool to start things off.
All right, thank you. Thanks, mate. I will do it. So my name's Gethyn Ellis. As you know, I work as a data platform consultant and trainer. I run a small consultancy practice, GethynEllis.com. I've been doing that for best part of 15 years. I think it's 15 years this November. We would have started up and kicked off. We do lots of things in that space. So I've had a lot of jobs over the course of my career. I kind of started out straight out of university. My first job was on the service desk, and I ended up writing some SQL queries on the service desk to get some reports around what different teams were doing and what they were up to and how busy they were and things like that. Kind of fell in a little bit into web development then. This is going back classic ASP days, kind of the turn of the millennium, just after I finished university. So some classic ASP web apps, all with SQL Server on the back end, and kind of slipped into database administration from there. I was actually doing quite a lot of work in local government.
Okay, yeah.
Probably around about 2002, 2003, when there was a big e-government strategy where local authorities and local, local authorities, local government organisations were trying to bring a lot of their services online. That quickly took off and became popular. So, the databases that were supporting these apps became critical. So I started learning a lot more sort of database administration type skills. So things like, being able to back up, restore, get security model right, getting performance right, getting high availability and disaster recovery in place, and kind of became that sort of accidental DBA. And the skills I learned doing that let me get my first job as a DBA with, it would have been South Wales Police back in 2004. I worked there for best part of 3 years, and that's when I decided it was time to go and take my skills and work for myself and start my business. I've been doing that since 2007, basically. We do lots of things. Still lots of data platform upgrades. That hasn't really changed, but there's lots of other stuff that's come into the mix as well. So as the Microsoft data platform, I've always been a specialist in, SQL Server has always been my database of choice and what I've worked in. But more and more as sort of the analytics, the data analytics capabilities of the platform has expanded and things have moved cloud-based, and lots of my customers have been keen to take advantage or try and take advantage of some of the enhancements there to make better decisions for their business. So we've kind of grown as the data platform has grown and expanded as well.
And I guess you're in no different situation to a lot of different disciplines across the traditional IT stack that has seen this change over the last sort of 10 years or so, with a shift to cloud technologies. I mean, Gethin, from a data perspective, I mean, can you pinpoint kind of key differences or key things that you're talking to customers about at the moment when it comes to, making that shift or making some of those decisions about, whether we stay as we are with applications and databases on-prem, or we take that to the cloud? What are the key things you're kind of seeing? Are you seeing any trends with that kind of thing?
Yes, I think the big cloud providers, so Microsoft and Amazon, Google to an extent, you said over the last 10 years, I think Azure SQL database, and I think this coincides with Azure going general availability. John, but correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll know. I think
that's about right.
2010, right?
Yeah.
I think it was 2010, so it's been around for 12 years. The sectors that where my clients have been based, there was quite a lot of finance, insurance companies, and that type of thing, and some government departments and local authorities and healthcare providers and things like that. When it first went general available, they had this huge reluctance to move their data into somebody else's data center, which in effect is what it is. And the main sort of resistance behind it was to an extent sort of data residency, but also the security and wrap around it, because they've got a lot of regulations and regulatory boxes they need to tick. So I didn't see, for me, the cloud didn't really take off until probably around about 2015, where I think there'd been quite a lot of investment in removing those drags on the uptake in the sectors that I was working in.
Yeah.
But since then, there's been a nice steady flow, and I still have some customers who, we need it to be on premises, and I'm like, no, that's fine. There's still plenty of on-prem stuff around, but more and more people are trying to make use of the flexibility and the agility and the elasticity that the data platform in the cloud can offer. If you want to run some high performance analytics for 2 hours, you can, then you can turn it all off again and spin it back down, and you're not paying for it. So there's definitely been. I think for the sectors I work in, they probably come a little bit later to the cloud market, but those resistors to taking your data there now are they've kind of evaporated a little bit, and now more and more organisations are keen to make use of data in the cloud and the tools that are available there.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think if I cast my mind back to when I first kind of got wind of all this kind of shift to the cloud, you're right. I think there was this whole conversation around, I guess it was trust to a certain extent, and the technical capabilities of the cloud maybe didn't tick those boxes that were needed for certain regulatory compliance and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it just, I look around, I'm not a data expert, far from it. I'm more from the infrastructure side. So, I'm one of those dangerous people that will just do a next finish on a SQL instance, to be honest, Gethin, and, you can shout at me. But, I mean, data, from my point of view, is absolutely one of those disciplines within tech that is very much on my radar in terms of, I keep hearing this concept that data is the new gold. So every industry is kind of producing data about their own business. I mean, you mentioned there that businesses are looking to utilize some of the key features and analytics features maybe, or maybe some machine learning. Are you getting involved in any of that kind of stuff at the moment with cloud? And what's your take on that world at the moment, Gethin?
So the short answer is yes, I'm getting involved. I wouldn't call myself a data scientist, Johnny, in any way, shape or form, but I'm aware of all the capabilities that are currently available and through the cloud offering, and Microsoft in particular, that's what I'm closest to. They're trying to make a lot of these statistical models and some of these really cool algorithms that can help with things like prediction and make predictions, and using your data to try and improve the decision-making process going forward. I'm doing a lot of work in that space. Just to come back to your point about data being the new gold, I use a slightly different analogy, because I think if you find gold and mine gold, it's instantly valuable for you. I call data oil, right? Because coming out of the ground, it's mucky, it's dirty, it's sticky, it's pretty useless, right? And if you've got barrels of oil, you just got to find somewhere to put it, right?
Yeah.
So only when you refine it and turn it into something valuable is when it becomes something worthwhile, turning into diesel and petrol and everything else. Data is very much the same. You have to go through that refining process to turn it into information that you can then use to make a decision. Is where the value is, because you could have petabytes and petabytes of data, But if it's just a big mash of stuff over there that no one can unpick or make use of, it's not a lot of value at all. You need to do something to it and get it into a shape where you can use it to make decisions.
Right, you've now just changed my analogy. No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's so right. Yeah, I mean, I guess for lots of businesses, they used to see, and normally it's, with data and data storage. In the past, from my experience, it's always been around, file and folder storage, those kind of large object data files storage, that non-relational database sort of stuff that has been the big issue. But as applications become, I guess, more versatile, more comprehensive, as more applications are being built, naturally this data storage of, either relational database or non-relational storage is going to grow exponentially, and that has to live somewhere. So when you talk about, using your analogy, kind of refining that data, from, if it's oil, it's refining it into a product that can be, I guess, give insights back to the business, or maybe even sell data to other companies from a particular business. Are you talking about using certain features of a cloud platform to kind of help with that process?
Yeah. So you think back, I always use the sort of Hadoop, history of Hadoop and where that came from and how it stemmed, and it got something called Doug Cutting. I think it's Doug Cutting. Came up with a white paper by Google in 2003, I think, and it got picked up by Yahoo, who took it on. That they were using it to sort of index and search the web, and they had all this sort of semi-structured, unstructured data that they wanted to bring together for organizations to use that and to the volumes of data you're talking about. So I won't name the company, but I've done some work for a software development, gaming development company. Who make mobile phone games, very famous mobile phone games, and they've made huge billions of pounds from this one particular game, petabytes of data coming from Facebook, right? And they were using, or potentially using, some of this on-premises technology to analyze that data, and they might have needed 100, 200 node cluster, right? Now, as this was becoming more and more commodity hardware, then it was easy for them to do. But that's still, having 100 to deal with these petabytes of data that they're ingesting, that they're then running through machine learning algorithms to make decisions on how they could monetize a customer. That for the sort of, let's call it a standard business, who's not got that sort of technology drive that this organization clearly did, it still wasn't available to them. So what cloud is doing, it's allowing them to have that space to put their data at a reasonable cost, and then they're making those tools available that'll turn that data into information reasonably easily, without the need for, say, a PhD in statistics to get those algorithms to work for you. Now you mentioned it earlier, John. You said that, I do this, I do that, next, finished. And that's to a degree what this is coming like. But you do need to be able to still interpret the results and understand what the figures they're telling you mean. But they're making it more freely available to more organizations who can then take that data, turn it into information, and drive real value from it.
And I mean, just to kind of, for clarity, I didn't mean to downplay the skills of a DBA by any stretch of the imagination. I think what it is sometimes, Gethin, is that you see these hello world type, and even related to kind of machine learning, you see these hello world examples that make things seem so easy that it's really easy to forget that there actually is a complication and a discipline that you need to understand to a certain extent. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that everybody has to go out and rush out and get certification, but at least just be mindful that next finish is never normally the right way. So,
it's not. You have to just be able to interpret the results, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be to that degree. That just getting your data into a shape where you can have a look at how it's been performing, the sort of descriptive diagnostic sort of reporting, what's happened previously, why did that happen? And there's a natural progression into the sort of, okay, well, if this happens again, would this happen again? And what's the probability of that? Then you can get into that predictive space. And there are tools out there, real simple tools like Power BI, which is an awesome end-to-end analytical solution all on its own that can really help with some of that stuff, even if it's as simple as things like sales forecasting based off seasonal data, and getting that understand, okay, well, next month we're probably going to do quite a lot more. Now, for someone who knows their business and knows their data, they might know that anyway, but there might be some real little snippet of insight that can really hammer home that advantage when you only know that it's coming. and that's where the value is. And don't get me wrong, even with all this available, there's still organisations out there that are not getting it right, particularly in the sort of machine learning data science space. They're trying, but they're not cracking it yet.
Yeah, I guess we're probably, it's probably fair to say we're probably all going to be in that scenario for a little bit of time. I think that's my general feeling, is that this whole cloud thing that's been going on for a little while now, I think everybody is, to a certain extent, still finding their feet. There's absolutely fantastic product sets out there that, and lots of companies have actually nailed it, of course. But I think for the general population, I think it's fair to say, even just from an awareness point of view, we're all still I didn't realize you could do that, didn't realize that feature. And things are moving on so quickly that, some of these things can quite easily pass you by without you even realizing that the capabilities are there. And like you mentioned there, that whole concept of, I guess from a data perspective, traditionally there have been these roles where you're a data analyst, you're a data scientist, you're a data engineer. And absolutely, I from my observation, some of these disciplines take significant skill and training and working with mathematics and algorithms that are will quite easily pass me by. But all of a sudden, I guess, what Microsoft are trying to do with certain features and functionality, from my observations again, is that to try and abstract a lot of that away. By putting things into machine learning algorithms that we can pass data into, train models, and glean those insights. I mean, it's a cool area, absolutely fantastic area.
It is a cool area.
So I mean, in terms of what you're up to, I mean, it's fantastic to hear you've got your own business, it's going well, but obviously you're a data platform MVP as well, which alludes to the fact that you work quite closely with community yourself, Gethin. I mean, community is something that I've been aware of for years and years and years and years, but to be honest, only the last couple of years I've started to, do these kind of videos, turn my attention to the community. And obviously, I've got my take on it, and I've got my observations. I mean, what has community done for you, Gethin, and what's your view of this tech community that we kind of all float around?
Well, so in the data space, mate, there's something called SQL Family, the little hashtag and stuff, and that's really the sort of Microsoft data community in a sort of nutshell. But for me, when I got my first job, when I got my job with the police, is when I found sites like SQL Server Central, which is, I think it was owned by the time by Steve Jones and a couple of his business partners. Steve's a Microsoft data platform MVP, and he now works for Redgate. But I kind of stumbled across SQL Server Central in my, I've got a problem, I need to fix it, let me look something up type of thing. So you go off and do your search, and you come up with all these results. And SQL Server Central was always kind of like my sort of go-to place. And what I was when you're young and when you're in your 20s and you're keen to learn stuff, what I was finding by the solutions that were just being presented on some of these forum, talking about forum sites now, and I know they're still used, and this is probably before Stack Exchange and all the sort of like big Q&A sites that are out there now. What I gleaned from that, right, just people helping each other out on these forums, is I could get experience in the technology that I perhaps wasn't necessarily using in my current role. Like, we weren't replicating anything, but somebody had a problem with replication, and it's like, oh, let me just see if I can replicate that and see if I can create the same situation and help fix it. So then you started answering some questions, you started getting involved a little bit. So you then became aware of it. Social media started to take off, so people were on Twitter and LinkedIn. I was very late to the Facebook game, and I only really use that to keeping in touch with friends and family who are far away. But I ended up being quite active in social media. I started writing this stuff down. I've had a blog since 2009. There was lots of opportunities to talk and present, and I started talking at some SQL Saturdays probably around about 2012, 2013. I only spoke at like 2 or 3. And then stuff happens in your life, and I kind of dip in and out of it, and I've done that over the years. So from 2012, 2013, I was doing some talks, carried on blogging all the way through, because blogging's always been kind of my thing. It's what I probably enjoy doing the most. But then I started to make some YouTube videos, and I started to I got offered a few authorships for books, all off the back of the community activity. So for me, it's really sort of helped me in my career and even in developing my business, because all the stuff I do for the community actually helps promote the business as well. So it's like that's not why I'm in there. I'm in there ultimately to help people, but it all has this knock-on effect that's really, really positive. And it all boils down to helping people. Someone's got a problem. It's like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I can make it do this. If perhaps it's a packaging thing, perhaps it's something, but just helping people out, you end up helping yourself on the way. And it's kind of a positive cyclical outcome. But it all boils down to just helping people. And I've been doing that for, I probably I started writing stuff in 2007. My blog's been around since 2009. I've been talking at conferences since 2013. YouTube for a little while. Started the podcast 2 years ago. And then like off the back of that, family happens and stuff happens. So you dip in and out. The amount of time you can dedicate to it does go through cycles as well. But when lockdown happened, my friend Kevin Chant, me and him, we were due to speak at a few places kind of around Europe. So there's something called, it was Sequel Saturday at the time, but I think it's gone away, but it's coming back. The organisation that owned it went and somebody else has taken it on. But they call Data Saturdays now, or something like that anyway. But we were meant to talk at a few of these, and they kind of went away. So Kevin put a tweet out and said, I wonder how long it'll be before there's an online version of these. And I said, yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. We should look to do something. And it kind of snowballed from there, and that's where Data Weekender was kind of born.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Data Weekender. So you've got that coming up fairly soon, I understand, Gethin.
The fifth instalment is on the 14th of May, John, and the call for speakers is still open. That's open until the 14th of April. So if anybody wants to submit a session,
well, what I'll do, I'll get the link. We'll stick it in the text associated with this episode below. So you've got a call for speakers. So is that going to be a virtual event, hybrid, in person?
No, it's online. It was born in lockdown. Cool. It's still online. I don't think we've got. It'd be nice to do an in-person event. I don't know if that'll ever happen. There's still lots of there's lots of cool in-person events like Sequel Bits that's just happened in London, and then there are a few others that are planned for later in the year. Whether we'll ever do anything to take it into the physical world, I don't know. But at the moment, it's an online event, and that's how it's going to stay for the full season.
So is that a one-day thing, all day? I mean, what's the format of that, and what kind of?
They've all been identical, bar one, where we had a keynote speaker in the middle of the day. We got Buck Woody along to give us a keynote, which was pretty cool. But there's usually 6 tracks. I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 sessions in each. There's 42 sessions in total, so you're going to test my math skills now. I think there's 7 sessions in each track, and they're all sort of Microsoft data platform related in some way, shape or form. We try and be as inclusive as we possibly can be when it comes to sort of speaker selection. So experienced speakers, new speakers, you name it, we're happy to get everyone involved and give everyone an opportunity to share what they know. And this will be the 5th installment of it. And I think this one's going to run pretty much to the same format. It's been very successful. I think we've got the last count. I think it's about 3,500 members in our meetup group, and each event gets attended by about 1,000 people. So it's quite a decent size online event. And,
sounds fantastic. And I guess it's all been built up over the years from being part of the community and actually looking to put that back.
I think so. It was kind of born in 2020, so it's only been around it's going into its 3rd year. We do 2 a year, one in the spring, one in the autumn. And it was born out of the fact that speakers needed somewhere to speak, attendees needed somewhere to learn. It's not massively difficult to put on an online event, so you can do it reasonably cheaply. We had lots of people offer to sponsor us, even for the first one, before we'd actually put any bums on seats. We didn't get a sponsor till the 3rd episode, where Microsoft sponsored it, and they've sponsored it since. I think they're doing the next one as well. Yeah. So the money from that we put back into the community too. So there's 6 organisers, and some people organise different user groups and other events. So the money's gone into that, and there's a few other things that we've put it into. But for this one, we are for every session submitted for our call for speakers, we're able to plant a tree in our forest. Right. So the last one, as a sort of speaker gift to be environmentally friendly and still reward the speakers with something that's interesting and cool, we set up a forest and we planted some trees. So for every session submitted, a tree's getting planted for
Oh, that's
this,
pretty
and
cool. Yeah.
it's Power Automate running it all behind the scenes. So you submit the session, and then it'll go into the API of our people who are planting the trees for us, and then a tree gets planted.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is a good idea. Yeah, and it's great to kind of like you say, be that inclusive and obviously conservationist as well. It's there's lots of cool things going on at the moment in society, and it's good to be part of, I guess, Gethin, and that's a good way of giving back in more than just a tech way, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, we briefly mentioned your podcast. I mean, do you want to let us know a little bit about your podcast, what you're up to with that, how that's going?
Yeah, podcast. We're just finishing off series 2 of that, so season 2. Whatever you want to call it. The podcast is called Putting the Human into Technology. So my business partner and I, Mark Williams, we wanted to do a podcast, right? And this kind of came out. This was born out of lockdown as well, because we were talking to lots of organisations as we were going about, talking to them about data, and the conversation always came up: how are you dealing with people? How are you people coping with lockdown? How's the change? The enforced change, but might be in the long term a good change that is being forced on organizations. And I know I've got clients or previous clients that haven't changed their way of working in 250 years. As I said, I was in insurance, right? So they haven't changed their way of working in 250 years, and the office times hadn't changed, and nobody worked from home, and that was kind of enforced on them in a 2 or 3 week period, and all of a sudden they had to change. So clearly that amount of change. Any organization, as an architect, you'll know this, John, any organizational change is going to impact on people the most. And we were just keen to talk to people. So we've been speaking to lots of CTOs, lots of heads of IT, lots of interesting people. We've had a sports coach come on about the impact the pandemic has had on them. And we'll probably change it up going into season 3 later in the year to see what the plans are now going forward. As I'm not saying we're at the end of the pandemic, because I don't think we are, given the infection rates and everything else that's going on at the moment. But as we are moving out of it, what the plans will be like going forwards. And it kind of fits in with our company ethos. We like helping people, putting the human into technology. We put people at the heart of what we do, and it's stood us in good stead, and we've had some reasonable success, which is
absolutely. And I'll put the links will be below, so if anybody wants to go and check that out and obviously support the podcast, it'll be below. Go and give that a click. But
thank you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gethin, it's really great to have a chat with you about all these great things. Kudos on the amount of stuff that you're putting back into the community as well. It's I'm sure, like I say, from my own personal perspective, data is one of those I've kind of deliberately stayed away because my mind just feels overloaded as it is. And I know, for the little that I know of the data arena, which, I've done a little bit in the past, but I've kind of at the minute just kind of siloed that off and thought, I'll get to data at some point. Maybe that's coming sooner rather than later now, because there's lots of cool things going on in the data world. So, thanks for giving me the opportunity to have a quick chat around. But look, before we wrap up this episode, I mean, there's always one big open-ended question I like to ask all the guests that come on, and it's really around, we all know that we've got this big, fast pace of change going on all around us at the moment. Generally, we're trying to help our customers kind of fathom out and work through all of this kind of complications and clever technology advances and things like this. But from your perspective, Gethin, why do you think we're having to do all this at the moment? What's the next big bet in tech from your perspective at the moment?
Next big bet in tech, I think it'll continue down the data path, mate. But I'm bound to say that, right? So, I think. I haven't really got too involved in the sort of virtual reality type stuff yet. Is it called metaverse or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I've not really explored that. I'm not sure if I like that, but I'm still out on that for the time being. I don't know enough about it to have an opinion or an informed opinion anyway. I think organizations making better use of their data is the way forward. Now, how that works from my side of things, I've got a conference talk called, which kind of segues into this a little bit, so I'll pinch it. I've got a conference talk called the top 5 skills that DBA will need in the 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1 in that, without giving it away for people who haven't seen it, is cloud and learning cloud. And you say, well, how would you come up with that? It's like, well, I asked about 400, I put a LinkedIn poll out and got about 300 people who replied to it. And cloud was by far and away the skill that the DBA is going to need going forward. So I think there'll be more transition towards cloud, more making use of your data, turning that into information to drive decisions. And then after that, mate, I don't really know.
But I guess I like your style because I think you're right in terms of data. I think there's going to be more data generated because we're seeing IoT devices that generate data. We're seeing VR and mixed reality and augmented reality. I mean, surely those platforms, those applications are going to be generating data. Where are users looking? What are they clicking on? How are they interacting? So I guess from a data platform expert's perspective, you guys are going to be overwhelmed, surely at some stage. Which
I guess that remains to be seen, mate. But yes, it's I think it's definitely a growth area.
So yeah, like I say, it kind of pins back to that point where data seems to be one of these areas that it's the traditional view was as a SQL DBA with like you said, managing the feeding and watering of servers and making sure data was backed up and recoverable and consistent and all that good stuff. But it seems as though those roles are changing. After having this chat now, that in line with what's going on in the cloud, with that I guess it's exposing traditional data experts and DBAs, those people that have traditionally worked with data in the past. It's exposing those people to this big wide world of data analytics and presentation of data, and I guess this transform and load of data and things like that. So
the thing is, John, none of that's new. And in my talk, right, I've got a photo of the sort of evolution of man through the various stages of humanity. And like when I started out, you had a DBA and a developer. And by about 2010, you had a DBA, a developer, and a BI developer. And now in 2020, you've got a data scientist, a data engineer, a site reliability engineer, a data architect. DBA is still there in some shape or form.
Yeah.
You might have a developer, you might have a data analyst and anything else, but they're all doing a lot of the jobs that were being done 20 years ago are still being done by these people under a different name and a different brand to a different scale as well.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But it's evolving, but it's not.
Is it that the barriers of the barriers to entry then maybe to get into some of this tech have been lowered because of the ease of spinning up that infrastructure? I guess is probably what's accelerated all of these kind of new roles. But so I mean that's a cool like I say, it sounds like it's going to be a cool place to be working over the next few years. I just got visions of people with their hair on fire with the amount of data being generated. But hey, that's down to cleverer people than me to work that one out. So look, Gethin, it's been super fun to have a chat with you today. Thanks so much for coming on. I mean, look, before we shut it down, do you have any more parting words of wisdom that we might want to hook into?
No, not really, mate. I think that's it. I just like to thank you for inviting me on and letting me ramble on for half an hour. It's been lovely chatting to you, mate. Nothing more really to add.
All my pleasure, Gethin. Like I said before, it's surprising how much I learn from these talks. Having great people like yourself come on and say hello to me for half an hour or so. It's all my pleasure, matey. So thanks for coming on.
Cool.
Right, catch you very soon on the socials. Thanks, Gethin.
Cheers, mate.